Welcome back. You're watching Nation Tonight. The race is set, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump for president and J.D. Vance for the vice president from the Republican Party. But even as this announcement was made at the ongoing Republican National Convention at Milwaukee, the focus here in India shifted to Vance's India connection. Usha, J.D. Vance's wife, is Indian and will be key in how Vance's fight moves in the U.S. presidential elections. Take a look at this special report. Bandaged, a part of his ear chipped off, and no sign of panic. 48 hours after Donald Trump survived an assassination attempt, the former president was among his supporters at the ongoing Republican National Convention at Milwaukee. While Trump was officially named the GOP presidential candidate for the November elections, the focus shifted to the man he announced as his running mate. Four-turned friend J.D. Vance is the vice presidential candidate, a man who has fiercely been critical of Trump in the past and is now his most loyal ally.
Delegates and alternates.
Trump posted that Vance will be strongly focused on the people he fought so brilliantly for, the American workers and farmers in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Minnesota, and far beyond. A clever move by the former president, who knows the Reds will have a tough time in the industrial Midwest battleground states that have traditionally been blue.
Up on the UK, just one.
As soon as the announcement came in about the Ohio senator, a video of him taking a shot at UK's Labour Party went viral. But it isn't just Vance who is grabbing headlines. His Indian origin wife, Usha Chilukuri Vance, is making news for her strong values and culture. Usha is also being credited for being instrumental in shaping Vance's perspectives on the rural white American experience, which inspired his acclaimed memoir, Hillbilly Elegy. The daughter of Indian immigrants, Usha is an accomplished litigator. She graduated from Yale University with a bachelor's degree in history and the University of Cambridge with a master's degree in philosophy. Interestingly, Usha was also a registered Democrat in 2014. The two met at Yale Law School and got married in 2014 at Kentucky, with a Hindu priest performing a separate ceremony. The couple has 3 children, Ivan, Vivek, and Mirabel. While the incumbent Vice President Kamala Harris has said she's ready to debate her opponent, Vance, all eyes are on how much of the Indian in Indian origin influence draws votes for the two sides. All right, on Nation Tonight, I'm joined by Vibhuti Jha, former Republican candidate for the New York Assembly. I'm also joined by Dr. John Harrison, political analyst in the United States. Good evening. Namaskar to both of you. Welcome to Mirror Now. Vibhuti Jha, let me begin with you. Here's a man who's been picked as vice president candidate for the Republican Party by Donald Trump, who's been severely critical of him in the past. He's called him America's Hitler. But he's also someone who's had humble beginnings, did not have a father. The mother was an addict, was brought up by the grandmother. All of that really playing into Vance's favor in this election. How do you see this really? Is it a smart pick by Donald Trump?
Well, thank you for having me today, Shreya, and wanted to say this very clearly, that, what Trump had said prior to the selection of the vice presidential candidate, that he should be somebody who could step in his shoes if something were to happen to him. How bizarre was it that something did happen to him? So J.D. Vance is a good selection. Now, why is he a good selection? You already said it, because of the Midwest scenario, because those are some critical states where the elections will be fought very bitterly, because everything can swing by a couple of thousand votes, as we know, as it happened. So he's a good choice, because there's another very interesting element to this. Trump hasn't gone for a woman, black, or any other consideration. He has chosen a straight white guy from Ohio who is likely to be the president if something were to happen, God forbid, to Donald Trump. Now, the question here is his past part is that he was a critical of Trump and he did what he did. I've read his book, by the way, when the book just came out, and somebody shared that book with me. And it was a remarkable story of a man. He's a true American story, rising from the ashes to become what he has done today. Sure, pure hard work. He's like an American dream, fulfilling an American dream. The fact of the matter is also that he has criticized, yes. You know, the funny thing about the US elections is that if you participate in the primaries, you don't have to find out what others are thinking about you. Your own party people say it out loud as to what you have been. So, you know, Kamala Harris had called Biden a racist. Yeah, so those are things which are open. Everybody has an opportunity to change his mind. It's a free world after all. So, and here is another key element. He has shown that he's inclusive, because even somebody who was such a virulent critic of him brought him back. So I think that's an important choice here.
Okay, let me take this point across to Dr. Harrison. Dr. Harrison, you know, the Republicans might have fielded J.D. Vance as somebody who they can, you know, put across as an example of somebody who did not vote for Trump, who was critical of Trump, and look how he turned over, and now he's a staunch supporter and even a defender of Donald Trump. But the Democrats might be seeing him as, you know, somebody who they can portray as probably meme material online and just say that, hey, listen, you know, he's just turned and he's not really true to his ideology. How do you see this race really moving ahead now?
Well, Cesar, thank you for that. I think the first rule of picking a vice president is that, very much like a doctor, that they do no harm. And J.D. Vance certainly doesn't do any harm to the ticket at all. I agree with your previous guest that it does open up some opportunities for the president in some of the Midwestern swing states. It's a very compelling story. Some of the concerns, obviously, are in this case that, you know, his record is relatively thin. He doesn't really have executive experience. And as President Trump said, in fact, in an interview hours before the attempted assassination, that his vice president would have to be able to step up and fill those shoes. And that's really the key role for a vice president. Traditionally, vice presidents have been picked for ideological balance or regional balance. Many people will remember former President Clinton picked then Senator Al Gore to balance out the ideology, and President Reagan picked George Bush to balance out the ideology. Here, I think there's more of an effort to send a message to not the broader votership, but his own base, President Trump's base, and saying that I understand that this is going to be my last term. I want to build a movement that is going to outlast me. And J.D. Vance has now been accepted by that because of his movement, and he's been able to be accepted. And I think that makes it a very powerful message for his core supporters that his MAGA movement is going to outlast him. And that's a very important message to be sending, because as your other guest said, it's going to be several thousand, tens of thousands of votes at most that may swing this. The polls are suggesting that the former president is beginning to pull ahead. We'll see what that turns out to on voting day. But this does no harm. I don't think it broadens his base, but it certainly secures it quite a bit for the road forward.
Can I also ask you then, Dr. Harrison, you know, just the fact that Trump and Vance put up a united picture last night at the National Republican Convention. There were lots of hugs and handshakes and basically a show of strength. But how much of that really translates and resonates with the voter on ground as soon as this announcement was made of Vance being picked as the VP candidate? You know, videos of him started going viral online. There was a video of him where he's taking a pot shot at the UK Labour Party. He's also been very vocal about American support to Ukraine, to Ukraine, and just being critical of that clearly. And he's also talked about Israel. So how does that really resonate with the people on ground, considering the fact that the two wars have divided the American society as well?
I think it certainly sends the message to his base that, despite what the former president has been saying recently, trying to moderate his views on a number of issues, that he is still very much a part of the movement, that the movement is safe and in secure hands. And I do think there's perhaps a very subtle message. It's not clear how many people would be voting on this, but that he can reach out across not the ideological aisle, certainly, but he can reach out to factions within the Republican Party that were certainly not supporting of him. And J.D. Vance was very much in that camp. What this means for policy, it's still going to be the president who produces the policies. So the vice president's job there is to support it. The vice president's job is to see if he can fix a weakness or bridge a weakness. Mike Pence was chosen originally as the president's first vice presidential nominee to send a message to then the conservative core of the Republican Party that Trump is safe. And I think here it's the movement that Trump has been building over the last several election cycles is safe. Will that move any voters? Probably not that many. There may be some low information voters who have read the book and have seen the movie who may not have been planning to vote and now will. But again, because it's very likely that this election is going to be decided in a few swing states, many of those are where this kind of message resonates quite well. And you're only looking for perhaps tens of thousands of voters. It may seem like a lot, but if you spread that across an entire state, you're looking at probably dozens of votes per precinct, and that's very easy to sway.
Sure.
And I think Vance will potentially do that.
And also just the fact that, he's been probably picked also because of the age factor and the fact that the Republicans want to woo the younger voters as well. Comparatively, of course, J.D. Vance is younger than the other candidates. But Vibhuti Jha, one of the primary focuses and a lot of talk of the town, if I may call it, here in India has been his wife, Usha, J.D. Vance's wife, Usha, and her Indian origin, and how that love story really, panned out in the United States at the Yale University and all of that. But when we look at it from the voter perspective, from the influence on ground that it might have, daughter of Indian immigrants settled there, making it big, both of them, husband and wife, living the American dream, how much of that would resonate with the voter?
We Indians are, as Shreya, you would know, both sentimental and emotional. And I coined a word called sentimotional. So we Indians get very sentimotional about hearing a potential political candidacy going up in the American political system. But be that as it may, as Dr. Harrison very correctly said, it is president's agenda. Usha will have absolutely no role in swinging any votes. As it is, 80% plus Indians vote Democrats. I don't know why. So the point is very important here. Usha will definitely shows a class of her own because she has clerked with Chief Justice John Roberts and also Brett Kavanaugh. So she has definitely a merit of her own kind, of a legal eagle, if I may say so. So she is very sharp, and she has also, seems to be shaped up J.D. Vance's life. And that's truly remarkable. So, that Indians are very successful in India, in the United States, is very evident from the way Indians are rising up in the American political system. But I wanted to say also this part here very clearly, that, American expectations from politicians is very skewed and very unfortunate. I put it in this way, that they want their candidates to be absolutely pristine, clear when they enter political life, regardless of whatever their past life have been. So it becomes unfair to treat with people that as if they are as holy as the Pope, as virginesque as Virgin Mary, and as Jesus-like to take all the brickbats and the stones that are thrown to them. Reality is different. And that's what is important here, that Trump has shown that regardless of the fact that he was an ace critic of him, he has brought him back into the party. And Vance, he endorsed Vance's senatorial bid 2 years ago. He endorsed him there. Not only that, people complain, or people have observed that he doesn't have administrative experience, as Dr. Harrison pointed out, and that's very correct. So did Obama. Obama had only 2 years of senatorial experience, but he catapulted to presidency straight away. So, experience is sometimes highly overrated, just as I have said that in the first debate between Biden and Trump, I said age mattered. For Trump, it didn't. For Biden, it did. And as I say, even a 50-year-old man can be lifeless, man or woman could be lifeless. So, it's a very interesting scenario. He's brought in somebody who is definitely 30 years younger than him, if not more. So there is a definite turn to the future and the youth, which needs to be enlisted.
I also want to, Vibhuti Jha, understand from you, Kamala Harris has said she's ready to debate J.D. Vance, and you may differ on this and call me out on the fact that I'm, talking about the Indian origin factor once again in this discussion. But, the focus goes to it inevitably, to Kamala Harris's background as well. But do you think that, just the fact that these Indian origin candidates go out, probably make a dosa somewhere, or speak in Hindi, speak a few words in Hindi, and try and cater to their voter base, is where it ends. It doesn't go any further.
You are absolutely correct. Remember, no president wins the presidential election. No governor wins his gubernatorial election because of Indian votes. So let's not delude ourselves in believing that we matter. What is important here is to show their identity, that they have not lost their roots. Because this America is, call it, it was once upon a time called as a melting pot. Now people are talking about a salad bowl. So, where your independent identity is maintained, you are showing to the people that though you are an American, you retain your roots and your identity. That's why the idli dosa thing goes on. It's not to cater to the votes. It's playing to the sentimental gallery of Indians. But reality is that in this election, people are so clear. 80% of the Indians who vote Democratic are not going to vote for J.D. Vance or Trump because it is Usha. What is going to happen is that I saw a video of a black comedian, very forcefully saying that Trump is a white nigger. It was very funny to hear him say that. He's a white nigger. Look, he was shot by a white guy. He got up and he said, fight, fight, fight. He is our guy. I'm going to vote for him. I was not going to vote for him. These are things that are going to matter. Mainstream is going to matter. Indian votes by themselves, yes, in critical states, the swing states, it will matter. That's right.
Dr. John Harrison, how do you then, finally, let me ask you my last question. How do you see this really moving forward? Many are saying after this assassination attempt, Donald Trump is a clear winner, and the road in this election has now, elongated, has extended even further than it was for Joe Biden. How do you see this fight really moving forward till November now?
I think that's right, that much of the polling and much of the commentary within the United States has been saying it's now President Trump's election to lose. I think that came about from the debate itself. And we have there's a long way to go. We are many, many months from an election, and we can see things change rapidly. So what I think we have to look at much more carefully is, will the president be able to turn this debate into, and the messaging that he's trying to get across, from being much more combative to being what he has been saying recently, that is going to be much more reaching out, much more reaching across the aisle, and trying to introduce peace and stability into the race. If he does that, if that message that he's been trying to portray, if that comes across, then this race will change fundamentally. It's not clear if it will yet. We haven't heard the former president's acceptance speech and what will happen during the campaign. But as I said, that politics change incredibly rapidly, and they have been for the last 20 years. 48 hours ago, we would not have been talking about this race has been fundamentally changed. And who knows 48 hours from now what's going to happen. Election day happens November 5th. Early voting will begin in September in many states in the United States. So how this will be playing out is going to be fascinating to watch. And I would hesitate to predict. I've given up the prediction game many, many years ago now. But it is going to be a fascinating race to watch. And it's going to be monumental for both the United States and our allies and partners around the world.
All right, we'll leave it there. Dr. John Harrison and Vibhuti Jha, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us tonight on Nation Tonight and sharing your perspectives. Let's see who wins this race. But for now, of course, the Republicans seeming on a stronger pedestal. Thank you very much to both of you for joining us.